Freddie Mercury didn't just front a band. He fronted a feeling of defiance, of drama, of unapologetic brilliance. He didn't ask for permission to be extraordinary, he just was. And when he left, it wasn't just Queen that felt the silence, it was all of us. For years, that silence lingered. It was a profound, deafening quiet where a supernova of a voice used to be. Queen didn't rush to fill it. How could they? Freddie Mercury wasn't a lead singer. He was a force of nature, a member of their family. They didn't hold auditions or chase headlines. Instead, they honoured him. Later, a partnership with the legendary Paul Rodgers, a project billed specifically as Queen plus Paul Rodgers, a respectful distinction. It was a way to bring the music back to the stage, but the core question remained unanswered. The throne was still empty. They let the silence speak, and in that quiet, Freddie's legacy grew louder, more mythic. The mic he once held, often left standing on stage, bathed in a single spotlight, became a sacred symbol. It wasn't a sign of absence, but of eternal presence. A testament to a voice that could never truly be silenced. That microphone wasn't waiting for a replacement. It wasn't waiting for someone to sound like Freddie, to mimic his every move. That would have been a betrayal. It was waiting for someone with the vocal prowess to master the most demanding catalogue in rock, and the humility to understand they were a guest in the house that Freddie built. It was waiting for someone brave enough not to replace him, but to stand beside him. Then, from the unexpected stage of a reality TV show, came Adam Lambert. Brian May and Roger Taylor saw him perform, and something clicked. Here was a performer with a staggering vocal range, a natural-born showman dripping with charisma, and a flamboyant theatricality that felt familiar, yet entirely his own. He arrived not with a Freddie impression, not with a crown in his hand, but with the heart of a lifelong fan. He understood the assignment. This wasn't about imitation, it was about celebration. He brought a voice that could carry the immense weight of these anthems, and the spirit that understood the reverence they required. Adam didn't just walk into Queen, he walked into a global legacy. He stepped onto a stage watched by millions of fiercely protective fans, a fan base that had every reason to fold their arms and say, "No, thank you." The pressure was unimaginable, and yet, he stayed. He sang his heart out, night after night. He listened to Brian, to Roger, and to the spirit of the songs themselves. He never pretended to be Freddie. Instead, he pointed to the sky, acknowledging the master at every show. He didn't try to fill the shoes. He built his own platform, right beside them, and proved that a legacy isn't a memory to be preserved in amber. It's a fire to be carried forward. And with Adam Lambert, the Queen fire began to roar once more. The world held its breath. Stepping onto a stage as the frontman for Queen is a task few would dare to even imagine. The shadow of Freddie Mercury isn't just long, it's a permanent, beloved part of the rock and roll landscape. The expectation wasn't just to sing the notes, it was to channel a legend. But Adam Lambert knew something crucial from the very beginning. He didn't try to be Freddie. That would have been an impersonation, a pale imitation of an inimitable force. Instead, he made a braver choice. He tried to be honest. He brought his own flair, his own powerful voice, his own theatricality, and laid it bare on the altar of Queen's music. And that honesty? It resonated like a power chord in a stadium. It was a frequency that connected instantly with the heart of the band. Brian May and Roger Taylor weren't looking to rewrite history. They had lived that history, and they cherished it too deeply. They weren't searching for a ghost or a replacement. They were looking to continue the story, to honour the legacy not by encasing it in glass, but by letting it breathe, roar, and soar once more. They needed someone who understood that Queen is more than a collection of hits, it's a living, evolving entity. They wanted to let the music live not as a tribute, but as a truth. A truth that could be reinterpreted, rediscovered, and shared with a new generation. And Adam got it. He understood the assignment on a molecular level. He didn't just sing the songs, mechanically hitting the notes that an entire planet knows by heart. He plunged into them. He felt them. He inhabited the joy of Don't Stop Me Now, the heartbreak of Who Wants to Live Forever, and the defiant majesty of The Show Must Go On. He stood on that stage, under the weight of monumental expectations, knowing exactly whose shoes he wasn't trying to fill. He was there to stand beside them, to celebrate them, to lend his own unique talent to their enduring power. And in that profound understanding, that perfect balance of reverence and individuality, he made all the difference. Because Queen plus Adam Lambert isn't a comeback suggests a return to form, an attempt to recapture a past that's gone forever. This was never about that. This was something else entirely. It's a continuation. A living, breathing, roaring extension of a musical conversation that was tragically cut short. It's the next chapter in a story that everyone thought had ended. It's what happens when grief finds its voice again. For years, the silence was deafening. Queen was a memory, a catalogue of masterpieces locked in time. Brian May and Roger Taylor carried the weight of that loss, not just as friends, but as musical partners left without their singular, irreplaceable frontman. How could the show possibly go on? The question hung in the air for decades, unanswered. It's what happens when legacy meets courage. The legacy is monumental, a pantheon of rock anthems. The courage is twofold. It's the courage of Brian and Roger to risk that legacy, to step back into the spotlight and trust someone new with their life's work. And it's the almost unimaginable courage of Adam Lambert, stepping into the largest shoes in rock and roll history. His task wasn't to replace a legend, it was to celebrate him, an act that required a delicate balance of humility and stratospheric talent. And it's what happens when the music refuses to die. These songs were never meant for museums or tribute nights. They were built for the roar of the stadium, for the raised fists and the unified voices of thousands. They are living entities, demanding to be performed with the power and pageantry they deserve. That's why the crowds didn't cheer because Queen was back. They cheered because something sacred was still alive. They cheered because the fundamental promise of Queen, that sense of belonging, of shared, defiant joy, was being fulfilled once more. They cheered because the song still mattered, perhaps more than ever. They resonated with new generations, kids who never saw Freddie but knew every lyric to Bohemian Rhapsody by heart. The music had proven itself timeless. They cheered because the spirit of Freddie, flamboyant, fearless, and free, was still in the room. It wasn't a haunting, it was an energy, an inspiration. You could feel it in the air, a palpable presence channeled through the performance. You could feel it in the way Brian looked at Adam, a look of profound respect, of shared joy, of a musician rediscovering the thrill of playing these songs as they were meant to be heard. Not as a replacement, but as a partner, a fellow showman who understood the assignment completely. Adam wasn't imitating Freddie, he was interpreting him. He brought his own phenomenal voice, his own theatrical flair, but always with a deep, authentic reverence. He was a fan given the keys to the kingdom, and he carried that weight not as a burden, but with grace and spectacular confidence. You could see it in Roger's grin from behind the drum kit. The powerhouse of the band, finding that thunderous rhythm again, driving the show forward with a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't just a gig, it was a mission. The band played not just with precision, but with a fierce, protective love for their own history. And you could hear it in the crowd, a sound that was part celebration, part catharsis. In the tears, shed for what was lost, and for what was found again. In the cheers, erupting for every soaring note and every iconic guitar riff. And most of all, you could hear it in the silence, when tens of thousands of strangers sang together like old friends, their voices joining as one. For 2 hours, they were a family, a choir, a community reborn. This was the magic of Queen, alive and well. This wasn't nostalgia, it was connection. Adam didn't just earn his place, he earned our trust. And that's harder. He reminded us that legacy isn't about preservation, it's about evolution. About letting the past inspire the present without being trapped by it. Freddie's mic didn't go silent. It waited. And when Adam picked it up, he didn't try to outshine it. He let it shine through him. That's the magic of Queen plus Adam Lambert. It's not just music, it's memory. It's movement. It's a reminder that some voices never really leave us. They echo, they evolve, they find new ways to be heard. So here's to the journey. To the band that refused to fade. To the frontman who dared to step forward. And to the fans, old and new, who kept listening. This isn't the end of Queen. It's the next verse. And Freddie, he's still here. In every chord, in every chorus, in every moment, we remember why this music matters. If you enjoyed watching, please click like and subscribe to After Freddie. The Journey for More.